Admiral White stood at the observation deck of the Imperial flagship Star Sovereign *, his golden uniform reflecting the distant light of Earth's sun. The blue planet rotated slowly in the viewport, peaceful and seemingly unremarkable. After 10,000 years of expanding the Empire's borders, he had seen countless worlds like this one. "Another primitive species, Admiral," said Captain Reed, studying the holographic display of Earth's orbital installations. "They've barely reached their moon. Their satellites are crude." The Admiral nodded, brushing a hand through his gray hair. The Empire had encountered hundreds of developing civilizations, and the protocol was always the same: observe, contact, and absorb them into the greater glory of the Empire. Some species required more convincing than others, but none had ever refused the Empire's generous offer of membership. "Their technology level?" White asked, though he already knew the answer from the preliminary reports. "Pre-FTL," Reed replied, scrolling through data streams. "They use chemical rockets, nuclear fission, and are experimenting with fusion. Their weapons are primarily kinetic and nuclear-based, nothing our shields can't handle." White watched as a primitive space station crawled across Earth's orbit. The humans called it the ISS, according to their intercepted communications. The Empire's smallest scout ships were larger than this orbital habitat. "Prepare the first contact protocols," White ordered. "Let's show them our standard welcome display." The light show usually impresses the younger races. The Imperial fleet of 20 ships moved into formation, their massive hulls catching the sunlight. Each vessel was a masterpiece of engineering, built by a civilization that had mastered gravity, energy, and the fundamental forces of the universe. The ships arranged themselves in the Empire's traditional contact pattern, a three-dimensional spiral that demonstrated both their technological precision and peaceful intentions. On Earth, chaos erupted as the Imperial fleet became visible to ground-based telescopes. Military bases went on high alert. Governments called emergency meetings. Television stations interrupted their regular programming. Millions looked up at the sky, wondering if this was first contact or their last day. "They're broadcasting messages to us," Reed reported. "Multiple frequencies, different languages. Some are mathematical sequences, quite clever for their level. They're trying to establish communication." White smiled. This was always his favorite part. Send the universal peace signal. Let's give them the full diplomatic display. The Imperial ships activated their energy matrices, creating a spectacular light show in Earth's orbit. Perfectly controlled plasma streams formed intricate patterns, a testament to the Empire's mastery over energy itself. The display was designed to demonstrate both power and precision, showing potential new members what they could achieve under Imperial guidance. "Sir," Reed's voice carried a note of surprise. "Their military installations are not powering down. They're actually increasing power to their defense systems." White frowned. Usually, primitive species were awed into temporary inaction by the display. "Show me." The holographic display shifted, showing military bases across Earth's surface. Instead of the expected confusion or celebration, the humans were organizing. Missile silos were being prepared. Fighter jets were taking off. Submarines were moving into strategic positions. "Interesting," White mused. "They're not panicking. They're preparing for a fight they can't possibly win." He had to admire their spirit, even if it was misplaced. "Should we increase the impressiveness of our display?" Reed asked. "No." White studied the planet with new interest. "Send the diplomatic shuttle. I want to meet these humans personally. There's something different about them." As the shuttle prepared for launch, White noticed something else unusual in the data streams. The humans were sharing information at an incredible rate. Instead of fragmenting into competing factions as most primitive species did during first contact, they were unifying. Military commands were being coordinated globally. Scientific data was being freely shared between nations that, according to their historical records, had been enemies mere hours ago. "Captain," White said slowly, "make sure the shuttle's shields are at full power. I have a feeling these humans might be more interesting than we thought." Little did Admiral White know, humanity had been preparing for this moment for centuries, not through advanced technology, but through something the Empire had never encountered before. Countless stories, movies, and war games about this exact scenario. While the Empire had mastered the physics of the universe, they were about to meet a species that had mastered the art of war. The meeting room in the United Nations building fell silent as the Imperial delegates entered. Their tall, pristine forms and flowing robes made the human representatives look small and plain in comparison. Outside, crowds gathered behind security barriers, trying to catch a glimpse of humanity's first alien visitors. Tom Miller, selected as Earth's chief negotiator, stood at the podium. 20 years in military intelligence and 10 years in diplomatic service had prepared him for many things, but not this. Still, he had to try. "Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Empire," he began, "before we discuss your offer of membership, we need to share something important about our species." The lead Imperial delegate, Ambassador Vale, smiled with perfectly white teeth. "We have studied many emerging civilizations, Mr. Miller. We understand your concerns, but I assure you, the transition will be smooth." Miller shook his head. "That's what we need to discuss." He gestured to the screen behind him. "With your permission, I'd like to show you something from our history." The screen lit up with footage from World War II. Tanks rolling across fields, cities burning, nuclear explosions rising into mushroom clouds. The Imperial delegates watched with mild interest. "These are impressive pyrotechnics," Vale said politely. "Many young species go through a phase of internal conflicts." "This wasn't a phase," Miller replied. He changed the footage. Vietnam, Desert Storm, modern combat footage, urban warfare, guerrilla tactics, drone strikes. Our entire history is marked by warfare. We've spent most of our scientific development finding better ways to fight. The Imperial delegation exchanged glances. Vale's smile never wavered. "Mr. Miller, the Empire has brought peace to thousands of worlds. Your wars are primitive skirmishes. They hold no significance on a galactic scale." Miller loaded another file. "Here are our military response plans for alien invasion scenarios. We've been preparing for this possibility for over a century." The screen showed detailed battle strategies, weapon designs, and adaptation protocols. Every major military on Earth has plans like these. For the first time, Vale's smile flickered. "You planned for war against species you hadn't met." "We did more than plan," Miller continued. "We've made movies, written books, and created games about it. We've imagined every possible way this meeting could go wrong, and we've prepared for each scenario." The junior Imperial delegate leaned forward. "Ambassador Vale, their entertainment media shows remarkable focus on conflict scenarios." Vale waved away the concern. "Mr. Miller, while your species' imagination is interesting, the Empire has never lost a war in 10,000 years. We haven't needed to fight one in 5,000. Our technology is far beyond anything you could." "That's exactly why we're warning you," Miller interrupted. "You haven't fought a war in 5,000 years. We haven't gone 5 years without fighting somewhere on Earth." He paused, letting that sink in. "We don't want to fight you. We're asking to be left alone." The Imperial delegates conferred quietly. Vale turned back to Miller, his perfect composure showing the first signs of strain. "Are you rejecting Imperial membership? No species has ever." "We're not rejecting it," Miller said. "We're warning you. If you try to force us, you'll be fighting an entire species that has spent its existence perfecting warfare. We've fought ourselves. We've fought nature. We've even fought imaginary aliens in our dreams. War isn't just our history, it's how we think." Vale stood, his full height impressive in the quiet room. "The Empire does not respond well to threats, Mr. Miller." "This isn't a threat," Miller replied calmly. "It's a warning from one sentient species to another. If you start this fight, you'll learn things about warfare you never wanted to know. We're giving you a chance to avoid that lesson." As the Imperial delegation left the room, Miller watched them go with a heavy heart. In all the first contact scenarios humanity had imagined, they'd hoped for peace, but they had prepared for war. Looking out at the New York skyline, Miller saw a military aircraft patrolling between the buildings. Humanity had spent centuries dreaming of meeting aliens, but they had spent even longer preparing for war. Now they could only hope the Empire would listen to their warning. If not, they would learn why humans had tried so hard to avoid this fight. The Imperial Pacification Fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. 100 warships, each carrying enough firepower to level a continent, moved into attack formation. To Admiral White, watching from the command ship, it seemed almost excessive for such a primitive world. "Standard pacification pattern," he ordered. "Let's make this quick and clean." On Earth, General Robert Thompson stood in the underground command center of the United Defense Force, watching the enemy fleets approach on massive screens. Unlike the polished Imperial officers, he wore a simple combat uniform with rolled-up sleeves. Coffee cups littered his desk. He hadn't slept in 2 days. "They're following exactly the attack pattern we predicted," his tactical officer reported. "Moving into high orbit, spreading out to cover major population centers." Thompson nodded. Humanity had spent decades creating defense plans for this exact scenario. "Are the quantum sensors calibrated?" "Yes, sir. The Empire still doesn't know we have them. Their scans can't detect our subsurface installations." The general allowed himself a small smile. The Empire had scanned Earth thoroughly before first contact, but they had missed humanity's biggest secret, the underground quantum defense grid. While showing off their visible military might, humans had been building something completely new. "Time to impact," Thompson asked. "Enemy fleet will be in firing range in 5 minutes." In space, Admiral White prepared to demonstrate Imperial power. "Target their military installations first. Standard orbital bombardment pattern." The Imperial ships moved into position, their weapons charging. They expected token resistance at best, perhaps a few missile launches or primitive energy weapons, nothing that could threaten their shields. They were wrong. "Now," Thompson ordered. Across Earth, hidden quantum generators activated. The technology was new, developed in secret by combining theories from a dozen nations. The Empire's scans had missed it because they weren't looking for it. They had never seen anything like it before. The first Imperial ship exploded without warning. Its shields, designed to stop energy and kinetic weapons, offered no protection against quantum displacement. The ship simply ceased to exist in our dimension, its atoms scattered across quantum space. "What just happened?" White demanded, watching the ship disappear. Before anyone could answer, 2 more vessels vanished. "Return fire." Full spread. Imperial weapons blazed, sending energy beams toward Earth. But the planet's surface was no longer where their scans showed it. The quantum grid didn't just attack. It defended by shifting pieces of reality microseconds into the future or past. "Sir," Thompson's tactical officer called out. "Chinese quantum teams reporting successful hits. Russian deep space batteries are online. Indian cyber warfare units have cracked their communication encryption." Thompson watched as humanity's decades of preparation paid off. While the Empire had relaxed in peace for thousands of years, humans had spent that time imagining every possible way to fight an alien invasion. Now those imagined scenarios were becoming reality. "Launch the fighters," he ordered. From hidden bases around the world, aircraft shot into the sky. They looked primitive, simple jets and rockets, but each carried quantum-enhanced weapons, designed specifically to fight an enemy that thought they were invincible. In orbit, White watched in horror as his perfect formation fell apart. A third of his fleet was already gone, destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. The surviving ships were losing communication with each other as human cyber attacks tore through their networks. "Impossible," he whispered. "They're using technology we've never seen before. How did they develop this in secret?" The answer, which the Empire was only beginning to understand, was simple. Humans had never stopped preparing for war. While the Empire built its ships to be impressive, humans built theirs to kill. While Imperial scientists developed technology for peace, human scientists had always kept one thought in mind. How can this be used in combat? Sir, Thompson's officer reported with grim satisfaction, the enemy fleet is retreating. Thompson nodded, but didn't celebrate. This was just the first battle. The Empire would be back, and next time they wouldn't underestimate humanity. But that was exactly what humanity had prepared for, because in all their war games, all their invasion stories, humans had learned one crucial lesson. The first victory only makes the enemy angry. The real war was just beginning. The world changed in the week after humanity's first space battle. Factory lights burned through the night. Military bases hummed with activity. Former enemies shared technology and resources with a speed that would have seemed impossible just days ago. Inside the main assembly plant of what used to be a car factory, Director Anna Baker watched robots retool the production line. The facility had converted from making sedans to spacecraft parts in just 3 days. Another miracle of human adaptation, she said to her assistant, watching the precision machinery take shape. The Empire thought we'd surrender after the first battle. Instead, we're turning our entire planet into a war machine. Across the factory floor, engineers from a dozen nations worked together. Russian rocket scientists collaborated with American aerospace experts. Chinese quantum physicists shared breakthroughs with European researchers. The Empire had unknowingly done something remarkable. They had united humanity. In orbit, Commander Jack West floated in the observation module of the International Space Station, now transformed into a military command center. Below him, Earth's cities glowed with purpose rather than fear. "Status report," he called out. "Lunar Base reports quantum shield installation complete," his officer responded. "Mars colonies are fortified and ready. Asteroid mining operations are converting to weapons production." West nodded. The Empire didn't know that humans had already spread through their solar system. Small colonies and mining operations, once seen as scientific ventures, were becoming military outposts. And the captured Imperial ship. Engineers have it half disassembled. They say their technology is advanced but predictable, like they stopped innovating centuries ago. This was humanity's greatest advantage. Where the Empire had perfected a single way of doing things, humans had always looked for alternatives. Where Imperial ships used standard designs, each human vessel was different, adapted for specific purposes. In Geneva, the United Defense Council gathered in a reinforced bunker. Representatives from every nation sat around a circular table, their traditional military uniforms creating a colorful display of Earth's martial history. General Thompson stood at the center, pointing to a holographic display of the solar system. "The Empire will return with a larger fleet, but this time, we'll be ready." "Production numbers are exceeding expectations," the Chinese general reported. "Our factories haven't worked at this capacity since World War II. "The same across all continents," added the African Union commander. "We're adapting Imperial shield technology to our own designs. Better, stronger, more flexible." Thompson zoomed in on Earth's orbital defenses. "We've learned more about space warfare in 1 week than the Empire has in 1,000 years. They'd forgotten how to innovate through combat. We never did." In space, the first wave of human warships took shape. They looked nothing like the elegant Imperial vessels. These ships were built for war, not show. Each one incorporated lessons learned from centuries of human combat, adapted for space warfare. "Sir," an aide interrupted the council meeting. "We're picking up Imperial communications. They're calling us barbarians. Savages." Laughter rippled around the table. The Empire didn't understand. Humans had been calling themselves worse things in their own war stories for centuries. "They still don't get it," Thompson said, shaking his head. "We've spent our entire history fighting. Fighting ourselves, fighting nature, fighting for survival. Every human innovation, from the wheel to quantum physics, was shaped by warfare. In factories around the world, production accelerated. Imperial technology, once mysterious, was being taken apart, improved, and rebuilt. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't their weapons or technology. It was their endless drive to adapt and overcome. "Send a message to all commands," Thompson ordered. "The Empire thinks they're punishing us, but they've given us something we've never had before, a common enemy. Now they'll learn what humans can really do when we work together." As Earth prepared for the coming storm, the Empire was about to learn another harsh lesson. Humans didn't just practice war, they revolutionized it. And now they had Imperial technology to work with. The real question wasn't whether humanity would survive. It was whether the Empire would survive humanity. Major Bill Stone watched from the bridge of his converted cargo ship as the massive Imperial fleet passed by. His vessel looked like space junk, exactly as planned. The Empire's mighty warships, each one a kilometer long, didn't even scan his position. "They never look at the garbage," he whispered, a grim smile on his face. The Imperial response fleet was huge. 500 warships sent to crush the primitive humans who had dared to resist. They expected to find Earth's forces waiting in neat battle formations, ready for a proper space battle. They were looking in the wrong place. "All ghost ships. Execute Plan Thunder," Stone ordered quietly. Across the debris field, 30 other dead ships powered up. Once they had been civilian vessels, cargo haulers, mining ships, even space tourism craft. Now they were humanity's secret weapons. The nearest Imperial ship exploded as quantum torpedoes struck from multiple directions. The Empire's rigid battle doctrine called for shields to face the enemy fleet. They never expected attacks from debris. "Multiple hits confirmed," Stone's tactical officer reported. "They're confused. Formation breaking." In another sector of space, Commander Lisa Ray led her wing of modified fighter craft toward an Imperial supply line. Her pilots were flying vessels that looked like Imperial support ships, captured in earlier battles and rebuilt by human engineers. "Remember," she said over the comm, "we only need to cause chaos, hit and run, just like our ancestors did in every guerrilla war in history." The Empire's supply ships had no chance. By the time they realized the approaching vessels weren't their own, race fighters had already struck. The Imperial crews, trained for organized fleet battles, had no protocol for dealing with raiders disguised as friendly ships. Back on Earth, General Thompson studied the tactical display with satisfaction. The Empire's mighty fleet was scattered, chasing shadows and false signals. Every time they formed up to attack Earth, they were hit from unexpected directions by unconventional weapons. "Report from the Mars colonies," his aide announced. "Imperial forces tried to establish a forward base. They found our abandoned mining facilities." Thompson nodded. Those facilities had been prepared as traps, filled with specialized weapons and automated defense systems. The Empire thought they were capturing valuable infrastructure. Instead, they were walking into carefully planned kill zones. In deep space, an Imperial commander watched in frustration as another ship fell to human attacks. The humans weren't fighting properly. They used civilian ships as weapons. They turned space debris into minefields. They even modified their own cargo containers to emit false sensor readings. "Find their fleet," he ordered. "Where are their proper warships?" The answer came soon enough. While the Imperial forces were scattered chasing guerrilla attacks, Earth's main fleet emerged from hiding. Not from Earth, but from deep space where they had been waiting. Not in formal battle lines, but in small, fast-moving groups that struck from multiple directions. "Sir," Stone's officer called out, "the Imperial fleet is trying to regroup. Their formations are textbook, exactly like we studied." Stone had spent months studying Imperial battle tactics. 10,000 years of peace had made them predictable. They fought the same way every time, unable to adapt to humanity's chaotic style of warfare. "Launch decoys," he ordered. Let's give them more targets than they can handle. Thousands of small drones deployed, each one broadcasting signals that mimicked different types of ships. The Imperial fleet's sensors were overwhelmed, unable to distinguish real threats from false ones. They're breaking formation, the tactical officer reported with satisfaction. Total chaos in their command structure. Stone watched as the mighty Imperial fleet fell into disarray. Humanity's greatest weapons weren't their ships or technology. It was their ability to think unconventionally, to turn anything into a weapon, to fight dirty when necessary. Send word to command, Stone ordered. Tell them the Empire is learning their first lesson in human warfare. There's no such thing as a fair fight when survival is at stake. The Empire had expected an honorable battle between fleets. Instead, they got a masterclass in human ingenuity and guerrilla warfare. And this was just the beginning. Admiral White stood in the ruins of his command center, watching holographic displays of yet another defeat. The Empire had committed half its total fleet to crushing Earth, 10,000 warships that had kept peace across the galaxy for millennia. Now those ships were being destroyed by an enemy that shouldn't have been a threat. Status report, he demanded. We've lost contact with the 7th Fleet, his officer reported. The humans didn't destroy them. They hijacked the entire fleet, turned our own ships against us. White slammed his fist on the console. The Empire had never faced an enemy like this. Humans didn't just fight. They absorbed their enemy's strength and improved upon it. In Earth orbit, Commander Ray watched from her modified Imperial cruiser, one of hundreds captured and enhanced with human innovations. Her engineering team had taken the Empire's perfect technology and made it better, more efficient, more deadly. Another Imperial battle group approaching, her sensor officer reported. They're using their new anti-guerrilla formation. Ray smiled. They're learning, but too slowly. The Imperial ships moved in a defensive sphere, watching for ambush attacks. But they weren't watching their own systems. Human cyber warfare teams had already infected their networks. As the Imperial fleet approached, their own weapons turned against them. Sometimes the best weapon is your enemy's weapon, Ray said, quoting the new space warfare manual that humanity had written in the past months. Deep in Imperial territory, Major Stone led a raiding fleet of hybrid vessels, human ingenuity combined with Imperial technology. They struck military bases, shipyards, and supply lines. The Empire had spent 10,000 years spreading out across the galaxy. Now that vast territory worked against them. They built their empire too big, Stone told his crews. They can't defend everything at once. Not against an enemy that moves like we do. The Empire tried psychological warfare next, broadcasting images of their vast civilization's power. Humans responded by broadcasting their own entertainment media. Thousands of movies and games showing humanity fighting against impossible odds. The Empire's propaganda specialists were stunned to discover humans had been imagining and preparing for this kind of war for centuries. In the Imperial capital, the High Command gathered for an emergency session. The golden halls that had seen 10 millennia of peace now echoed with words they never expected to speak. Defeat, retreat, surrender. How? The Imperial Chancellor demanded. How can one primitive species do this to us? Admiral White, recalled from the front, had an answer. Because we forgot something important. We've spent thousands of years perfecting our civilization. They've spent thousands of years perfecting warfare. He showed them the latest battle recordings. Human ships that combined Imperial technology with Earth designs. Weapons that shouldn't exist. Tactics that broke every rule of civilized combat. Their entire history is warfare, White continued. Every human child grows up learning about battles, strategies, and wars. They turn their games into war simulations. Their entertainment shows them fighting impossible odds. And now they're making those stories real, the Chancellor finished. On Earth, General Thompson studied reports from across the galaxy. Human forces had spread far beyond their solar system, using captured Imperial technology to strike deeper into enemy territory. Each victory brought new technology to study, improve, and turn against its makers. The Empire made 3 mistakes, Thompson told his staff. They forgot how to innovate through conflict. They thought peace meant safety, and worst of all, they gave us access to their technology. The Empire had seen humans as primitives playing with advanced toys. Now those primitives were teaching them the true cost of war. Every imperial advantage, their size, their technology, their perfect order, became a weakness that humans could exploit. The Empire had started this war expecting the simple victory. Instead, they had awakened humanity's full potential for warfare, and there would be no going back. The galaxy was about to change forever. The Imperial Chancellor stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council, his golden robes no longer shining with their usual splendor. The Great Hall, which had hosted 10,000 years of peaceful governance, now felt cold and uncertain. The humans have breached our final defensive line, he announced to the stunned silence of the council. They now control 1/3 of Imperial space. On the massive display behind him, red markers showed human-controlled territories spreading like a fire across the galaxy. Every defeat taught them. Every victory made them stronger. The Empire's perfect order was being dismantled by an enemy that thrived on chaos. Admiral White stepped forward, his once pristine uniform showing signs of actual combat. The humans sent us a final message today. I think you should all hear it. The message played through the hall's speakers. It was General Thompson's voice, calm and determined. You didn't listen when we warned you. You thought our wars made us primitive. Instead, they made us strong. You have 24 hours to withdraw from all human-controlled space. After that, we won't stop at defense. We're coming for your capital. The council erupted in panic. In 6 months, humanity had done what no species had managed in 10,000 years. They had pushed the Empire back, not with superior technology or numbers, but with the accumulated knowledge of countless wars. How many ships do we have left? The Chancellor asked. Not enough, White replied. They're not just destroying our fleet. They're taking our ships and making them better. Every defeat makes them stronger. They learn. They adapt. They evolve through conflict. In deep space, Commander Ray led the human fleet toward the Imperial capital. Her ships were a mix of Earth designs and captured Imperial vessels, each one modified and improved. Humanity had taken the Empire's technology and rebuilt it through the lens of thousands of years of warfare. The Empire forgot something important. She told her crews, "Peace is precious because war is terrible." We never forgot that lesson. Major Stone's guerrilla fleets struck Imperial supply lines with increasing boldness. His raiders no longer needed to hide. Now they hunted Imperial ships openly, using tactics that evolved with each battle. They gave us access to their technology, Stone said, watching another Imperial fleet retreat. They never imagined we could improve designs they thought were perfect. Back on Earth, General Thompson received the Empire's response to his ultimatum. The mighty Galactic Empire, which had ruled for 10,000 years, was suing for peace. They're offering recognition of all human-controlled territory, his aide reported, plus a buffer zone. They want to establish borders and end the conflict. Thompson studied the proposal. Humanity had never wanted this war. They had tried to warn the Empire, tried to prevent the bloodshed. But now that it was over, the galaxy would never be the same. In the Imperial capital, the Chancellor signed the peace treaty with shaking hands. The Empire would survive, but changed forever. They had learned harsh lessons, that peace could breed weakness, that civilization needed innovation to stay strong, and most importantly, that some species were better left alone. As the human fleets withdrew to their new borders, Admiral White watched from his command ship. We should have listened to their warning, he said quietly. When a species spends its entire history preparing for war, you don't want to be their enemy. The Empire added a new protocol to their first contact procedures. When their scouts found new civilizations, they began checking their history for something specific. How much had they fought? How had they developed? What role did warfare play in their culture? And in their records, Earth received a special designation: approach with extreme caution. This species specialized in warfare before reaching the stars. If hostile intent is detected, run. Humanity had never wanted to teach the galaxy about war, but when forced, they had proven to be the greatest warriors the Empire had ever seen. The age of unchallenged imperial power was over, and a new era had begun. The Empire had learned its lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous species are the ones who warn you about their own potential for violence.